Good. Well, welcome to the Leadership Lounge. It's great to have you join us again this month. And I'm here with Anna Hennell James.
Hello.
Hello. Great to work together again. And this month's podcast is more of a personal one. In fact, some might say, if I'm going to be a bit cheesy and corny, it's all about me, because today's topic is about managing me. And before listeners switch off because they think the whole podcast is about Colin, it's not. It's all about how we manage ourselves as people and as leaders. Because before leading others, we need to lead ourselves. We need to be in control and manage ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. So this means recognizing the emotions that we have and us choosing to respond rather than react. So this month's topic is great for anyone, and especially for those of us who lead others, making sure we're the best version of ourselves to lead. So, Anna, it's great to have you with us again.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, we're getting a nice little routine of podcasts together. So what do you think? How important is it to kind of manage ourselves as people, particularly when we're leading others?
I think it's crucial, because if you don't, then generally that's when things can go wrong or not work as well. And like you said, it's about being the best version of yourself. And that can take work and practice. And when you're leading, people look up to you. So people need to come into work every day and know which you they're going to get. It's not fair on them if they don't know each day when they rock up quite who it is they're going to get. So even if you've had the most horrendous morning getting into work and the cat's been sick all over you and you've got stuck in traffic and you've forgotten to, I don't know, bring your packed lunch or something, you still have to walk in and have that persona of being the person that's there, the best version, ready to go in and lead. So people then can come to rely on that, and then they can be the best version of themselves because they're not trying to second guess what you're going to be like. They know what to expect because that's how you are when you rock up. So it's key, and without it, then I think it can become chaotic and dysfunctional.
So that consistency, I like what you say there, actually, it's important to be consistent for others. And so when we're managing ourselves, even if we're thrown by events, we're not allowing those events to control us. We're still in control of ourselves, and we therefore can maintain consistency, which people need. And I love the way you said, actually, us being the best version of ourselves enables others to be, because if we're not consistent, then that impacts on them. We then become part of the series of events that might then affect them. So what do we think is the impact beyond this inconsistency of when we don't manage ourselves well? What are the other sort of negative impacts of when we don't?
I think that's when things can go really badly wrong. And when you do or say things that, and generally as soon as it's out, you go, I shouldn't have done that.
No!
I wish I hadn't
Chasing
done
the words.
that. And you can't, it's too late then because it's out. And that's, that can have a really negative impact either on other people or on their view of you as a leader. And when you've lost it like that, you have to work so hard to get it back. And for some people, there are some people where you get one chance, and if you've blown it by, not managing yourself and not maintaining that self-control, that's it. Gone. Opportunity, chance, whatever. Business gone.
I was kind of reminded as you were saying that of a piece of work that actually I learned through Emerging Leaders, a brilliant charity that supports people of all levels in leadership. And it talks about our thoughts lead to feelings, leads to habit, leads to character, and that actually our thinking and the way we manage that then if we don't manage that thinking correctly, can become a habit within us and become a character. And then they talk about our character as like a garden, and that we need to weed it regularly and weed the weeds early, pull them out early before they really take hold. And so it is a case, isn't it, of just recognizing, actually, I'm not managing that element of myself. I'm saying things that I've noticed in myself aren't kind to others or aren't helpful, or it's impacting my business as a result of that. People are viewing me this way, and being able to weed those things out early and spot it and do something about it. So the negative is it's we can end up saying things we regret. We can end up impacting our character, impacting how people view us, and therefore either our business or whatever environment we're working within. So that's when it can go wrong. What about the impact when we do manage ourselves, when we are emotionally intelligent enough to spot what works for us, what doesn't, what things are impacting? We then respond and take steps to manage our emotions in those moments, to decompress, to calm ourselves, to work with others, to ensure that we are the best version. What's the impact of when we do that well?
When you get it right, it just makes life so much easier. And things run smoothly. It's like, you're cooking on gas. It's all just kind of chugging along where you want it to go, because you are in control of you, and you set that kind of clarity and expectation that enables other people to kind of manage themselves as well. I guess they see that's what you're doing, that's what they do. So then things... it's like success breeds success. And when you have that degree of self-awareness and you are in tune with yourself, so you stop yourself before those words come out, you then don't have all that backpedaling to do and those issues you're not running around trying to clear up the mess that you've unwittingly made. So your time and energy is just constantly going into that driving forward.
I like
that's when you get like real success.
Yeah, because you're not having to go back and clear the mess up. So your energy is into the positive forward rather than having to mend and repair and sweep up the chaos that you've left behind because you haven't managed yourself. Yeah, really like that. So one of the things that I think is quite important is to think, like we've said, is about managing me, about how we're understanding ourselves and responding. And for me, I think there is a kind of proactive and reactive part. And when I work with clients and we're looking about how you're managing yourself, how you're managing anxieties and emotions that are coming in, I give them the analogy of with asthma. For those who are asthmatic, you get different types and colours of inhaler. And we're probably used to most seeing the blue inhaler, which is the reactive. When someone's having a bit of an asthma attack, they take the blue inhaler, it's the reactive. But there are also proactive ones. And when we were young, it were brown ones. But it's not. There's all sorts of colours now, and probably one of the more common ones I see people with is a pink inhaler. So I talk to people about your pink inhalers and your blue inhalers, your proactive things that you need to do to manage to keep your levels good. That means you're kind of emotionally more stable, but emotionally able to adapt more easily. And then your blue inhalers, the reactive things that if you spot in yourself those emotions arising, how you do that. And it starts, I think, first of all, with that self-awareness of who am I? What do I need to be putting in place? So it's that self-awareness of what enables me to be the best version of myself, what sorts of things I need to do. And then that self-awareness to spot some of the early reactive signs that mean, before I'm having a full-blown emotional reaction, let's spot the signs earlier. And therefore, what things do I then need to reactively put in place to calm and measure myself? And that allows you to sort of stop things from rapidly deteriorating. So, Anna, first of all, how do we develop, do you think, this self-awareness in ourselves to know what we need, kind of proactively, what do we need? How do we develop that awareness in the first place?
I think partly it does come from experience of, we've all had times when things haven't gone as well as we would have liked and we didn't get the outcome we wanted, or we didn't manage something as well as we were hoping to because we got hijacked by our emotional response to something. So I think when you've lived through that, you are more mindful of it. So you get that sense of, I need to watch out for that next time.
So it's part of it learning from experience.
Learning from experience.
That when I hadn't done these sorts of things, I was crabby. And therefore I reacted that way. So I've realised
learning from experience. I think it's about being honest with yourself and taking responsibility and not putting things on other people. It's quite easy to go, if they hadn't done that, of course, it would have.
So there's a real ownership in that then, isn't it? It's that, and there's a sense for ownership. We need to, in some ways, feel emotionally strong enough to own it. We need to have enough sense of our identity, but even if we're struggling for our sense of identity, it's really important to take ownership, to be able to say, yeah, okay, so that situation fueled it, but I was responsible for that bit. I could have made some different decisions there, which would have led to different consequences. So ownership, reflection and ownership.
And I think as well, it's about asking for feedback, asking your, close, trusted people.
Yeah.
How do you think I'm doing?
Yeah.
What kind of, I suppose, what kind of vibe am I giving off? How are you seeing me right now?
So when I work with clients, I talk about guardians and guardrails, things that you can put in place that reduce the chance of it. Guardrails, like on the side of a mountain road, stop you falling off the edge. So those are systems you put in place. And then guardians are the people, the trusted people, the people that will call it straight with you, but they've always got your best intentions. So that might well be your partner. It might well be a trusted person at work, a good friend that loves you to bits, and they're telling you for the right reason.
Right reason, yeah.
And I say to clients about giving them, it sounds strange, but giving them permission and also perhaps giving them words to say, because within yourself if certain words will trigger within you, like if someone says you're being an arse, oh no, that would make me really cross. So actually, if you say, darling, I love you, if it was your partner, clearly not if it was just a work colleague, I love you, and you told me to say these words to you, and then that giving them permission to speak into your life around areas like that and spot the weeds early, I think it's really important. So there's that sense then of awareness, ownership, and I guess it's kind of trusted people to speak into you. So that's the key, is it, to develop that self-awareness. Good. Okay, so let's talk then just around the types of things that we put in proactively. So what I would call your pink inhalers. And again, with both the training I run and in some of the coaching that I've done with people, I've talked to people about 4 key areas. So relational, physical, mental, and spiritual. So generally, these categories are where, when we put things in proactively, they help us manage our emotional levels. So relationally, spending time with friends, spending time with loved ones, family, making connections. For some people, and with each of these, there'll be different things for different people. Physical, so that can be going for walks, going for runs, doing something physical for some people. Mental, reading, holding conversation, listening to podcasts, those sorts of things. And then the kind of spiritual, for some people that might be faith-based, e.g. go to church, go to the mosque, whatever. Or it could just be being out in nature, and just replenishing my soul. So generally, they'll fall under these kind of categories, but it's working out for you which are the ones that fuel you. So let's talk about your pink inhalers. Kind of what have you learned that you need to keep you kind of managed, that helps you get your levels right?
It took me a while to realise what it was doing for me, but I have to have time for being, it sounds very grand, creative. I like making stuff.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what it is. I've dabbled in all sorts of.
I think we had on the previous podcast, you'd made a coat. It was a very beautiful coat.
My beautiful coat. So I do like some sewing and some knitting, but I just like that sense of satisfaction in making something, and you go from the, if you like, the raw materials to a finished thing. Because sometimes in work you don't necessarily get that, or it takes a long time to see something finished. So for me, it's that something is completed, and it doesn't. I mean, I do love a bit of knitting. I've been on a course recently. I've learned how to knit socks and to turn a heel properly. It's very satisfying. But I can remember times when I've sat of an evening knitting, and then the next evening I'll just unpick it all to knit it again, because it's just that physically doing something, and I've used up the ball of wool, and now I'm just going to unpick it and knitting it all again. So I need that kind of doing of something is important.
Yeah, so that's in some ways your version of physical.
Yes.
So for me,
yes, I would not go out for a run.
Yeah, so for me, mine is going for a run. If you'd asked me this probably 5 years ago, I would have laughed at you, but it's now become a key part of my routine, and it isn't just the fitness element to it, but it's also just that space when you're going running. So for me,
that is really important, isn't it? That it is different things for different
Yes.
people. And I think sometimes well-meaning people can go, oh, well, you just need to take up running.
A running evangelist.
No, I don't.
I fall into that trip sometimes myself as well, yeah.
And, people mean well, but actually if that's not your bag, that's not going to make you feel
so that physical
better.
can be creating like yours, it can be running.
And the kind of doing something.
And everybody's will be different. So although you and I are saying, oh, this is what helps us, which might be helpful to others, we're not saying that everyone has to go and make a coat or bake a cake or equally go for a run, but it's finding for you what that works.
It's finding your
Anything
thing,
else you do to help?
I think as well, and again, this came to me quite late on, diary management and planning. I had to be taught it. I do believe you helped me with that quite a lot, because I would get to the stage where I just got, a list a mile long and nothing was getting done. But then I wasn't actually physically planning in time in my diary. And that, once I'd got to grips with that and actually planned my weeks out more, looked at when the pinch points were, looked at when reports were due in, so then, back chain that, when do I need to, that made a massive difference. And much as the type of person I am, that's really tedious and boring, planning your life out and filling in a diary, but it did make my life easier and more manageable, and brought down those moments of panic of, suddenly realising what's the date today, oh shit, I've got something due in tomorrow and I haven't even started it.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. So
and again, that one is very much, different things for different people, because there's some people who thrive on the last minute. For you and I, no, planning, organising, sorting your weekly schedule out, the 3-weekly schedule out is really important.
Just helps you keep that
Keeps
balance.
the level down. Yeah.
And I think it is about just allowing yourself that downtime. That there is nothing wrong with slobbing on the sofa and watching a load of drivel on. I mean, there are some things I wouldn't watch, but something that's not taxing.
Allow the brain to rest.
And that's okay. But again, that's something that I've had to work hard at, giving myself permission that it's okay to sit and basically be doing nothing.
And then noting, again, this might come to the bit where you said you learn by, when it's not there, noting, oh yeah, because I haven't done that, I then felt a bit more edgy. Yeah. So for me, mine is, as we said, running. It's also reading. So I love reading non-fiction, particularly around psychology and leadership. And you might think, oh, doesn't that not work? But I just find that bit stimulating. And that again puts me in a good position. There's also just some quiet reflection moments. So that might be out in nature, walking the dog. It might be a bit of kind of just reading, reflection and quiet, and prayer and meditation as part of that. That also I find helpful. And it's just having that. And I do note, if I haven't got that so much, so like running is off at the moment with an injury, I miss it. And then, if you start to miss too much of what is right for you, then it just make you a bit more edgy. So those pink inhalers, those are ours. Those who are listening just need to think, what is it that I find helps replenish me and put me in that good position? So it's finding your own pink inhaler, isn't it? The other thing that I think helps us manage, and I'm coming across this more and more again in my work as a coach, is just around how you're managing your body and just noting those kind of signs in your body as well. But I just wonder, Anna, you come across to me as a really calm person. But are there moments when you felt far from calm? And if so, without breaking any confidences, what sorts of things make you not so calm then?
My family would laugh if, for somebody to say you seem really calm. I think that's probably one of those things that professionally I've learned to be very calm and measured.
So we see you as professional and calm. What do your family see you as then, Anna?
Rushing around like a headless chicken sometimes, getting wound up about the most stupid of things, and quite a lot of swearing.
Which, if you're watching on video, you look at Anna and go, surely not. And when you will see with Anna professionally, you go, surely not. But that's behind some closed doors.
Behind some closed doors, it's just like that.
Okay.
Those moments. But I can, even with that calm work persona and trying to manage it, I've had times of absolute panic when the work has piled up and it's like, how am I going to get all this done? And I think the other things that cause me to lose that sense of calm is, when you're in a work environment, people challenge you. Absolutely right. Doesn't matter what position you're in, we're all open to being challenged around things. But it's when people, from my point of view, I'm perceiving that what they're doing is challenging or criticising like my morals and my purpose, because that feels really personal. And I've had some situations like that where I can think of one where I was involved with HR in meetings with a member of the team and had to sit and listen to what, to my mind, I just did not recognise myself and what was being said about how I'd behaved, and I feel really strongly that I always try to be empathetic and supportive of people, that I listen to. So for somebody to say that I was behaving in a way that goes counter to how I've always tried to be, that to me is like a dagger through the heart. So it's very hurtful. And then after the hurt, it's the kind of, how dare you say, when I really don't feel I've done it. And that is not a calm time in a meeting, when it feels like it's that really personal attack and criticism. That's
and yet
hard.
Managing in those moments is absolutely crucial.
And you do kind of just have to suck it up.
So one of the things that I said just now is about noting in your body. So in those types of moments, then actually when you can feel yourself, can't you? Actually start to feel those things. And it's about knowing the signs in our body, but also the stages it goes through. So if we were to take that moment then of either where someone's been unfairly critical, or if someone's having a go at you, whatever presses our button. So it's the same for me. If someone is unfair, or if someone is being inconsistent or inauthentic, or there's a lack of integrity towards me, I can feel it in myself. So I know what my signs are, which I'll say in a moment, but what signs do you note in your body in those types of moments where someone is being like that towards you?
I can sense that I'm getting more emotional, that those emotions are nearer to the surface.
How does it come out in your body? What do you notice physically in your body?
I tend to, this sounds really silly, I tend to stop breathing, to forget to breathe. I find I'm actually holding my breath. And that then just, physically then it's not good to not be breathing, is it? But, that has an impact, which I think you'll probably explain how that works. But it is that thing of, your heart rate goes up. Sweaty palms, that kind of thing, and I always feel like I just want to cry.
So those are the signals the body's saying we're under stress. So as you said, that what's physiologically happening then is that the amygdala is sending a message to our body. It sends it to the adrenal gland to release cortisol. Cortisol then goes to the key components like our heart and our lungs to tell it to get ready for flight or fight or freeze. So that's why the heart rate is increasing, why our breathing is changing, because it's getting ready as if it were going to be a fight. And obviously we don't want to be physically fighting people who are saying nasty things to us. It doesn't go well in leadership when we do that. But that's what physiologically is happening to us. For me, I know my signal then is I tend to feel my neck gets really hot and flushed. I can start to feel my face flushing. My heart rate changes. I have a very, very low resting heart rate anyway, so I'll probably find it goes up to about 80 now rather than sitting at 40. So I can feel the heart rate is increasing. I don't notice it quite so much in my breathing. It's more this flushing in my neck and in my face. I know I can, and I probably feel slightly tense in my arms. And that's what I know I've got. I am now feeling cross. But it's about kind of working out how we kind of spot those signs a bit earlier as well. So that's physiologically what's happened to us. Those are the signals our body is telling us, actually, we're at a point now where if we're not careful, we might not manage this. So how do you manage those moments? So you talked about someone's having an unfair crack at you. You're starting to feel those feelings. you kind of said, oh, you just have to suck it up. But it isn't just a case of sucking up. What is it you do in that moment then?
I mean, I literally sometimes have to remind myself to breathe.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you need to breathe.
Yeah.
Take some air in. But not that, the whole thing of people say, oh, take some deep breaths. I don't think that helps, because I think if you start taking really deep breaths, you can then kind of overdo it, and that makes you feel worse. It's just trying to get back into that normal, regular pattern of breathing rather than, without realising it, holding or not breathing. And I think as well, it's about saying to yourself, this moment is going to pass. You know, just hang on in there, because it's going to pass. Breathe. For me, you know, breathe. Try and, I suppose if you can, and it's hard if somebody's like coming at you and you feel you've got to be ready to respond, but it's just kind of like taking that moment to try and relax a bit and almost like chew a little bit of it out, and not start, because you know, when somebody has a pop at you, they've not even finished the sentence, and you're articulating in your mind what you're going to go back at them with, isn't it? And it's like, well, we're not going to do that, because that's just going to make things worse. So it's that, like, just try and pause it a bit, breathe, calm. This is not going to last forever. This moment will pass. You know, sometimes we've been here before. We know we can get through this. We can manage it. And knowing that if you kind of don't get it back under control, there's a big consequence, without putting like too much pressure on yourself. But I need to get myself back so I can manage this. And I think sometimes, you know, if you are really feeling it, there's a time to be said to, you know, call a time out in the meeting.
Absolutely, yeah.
And just physically remove yourself.
Yeah. Take a break,
regroup, and go back in.
Yeah, that's right. And what you're talking about there is a mixture of both the physical and the mental, the stuff there around your thinking, around what you're telling yourself, but there's also some things around the physical. So on that physical side, we've talked about cortisol. You've also got something called the polyvagal nerve, which runs from your brainstem to key body parts, such as your heart and your lungs, which send signals. So in one sense, the brain is sending signals we're in a threat, and also those body parts through the nerves send a signal back as well. So when our heart rate is pumping and our breathing has changed, it is sending the signal back to the brain as, oh yeah, we are in fight, flight, freeze mode. So when you talked about changing your breathing, so there is a sense, if we slow our breathing down, not overbreathe so that you can get yourself in more of a panic, but just slow it and get the rhythm back in your breathing. Almost our lungs are then sending the signal back to our minds that we're not in fight or flight mode. And if we are just calming the breathing, then that will slow the heart rate. Then the heart rate slows, and so the heart's sending the signal back of, I'm not in a fight or flight mode. So that physicality bit is important. So I would often say to clients, just slowing your breathing is an important part. And so, you know, breathe in slowly for 5, hold for 5, out for 5. That again will calm. Now, if you're in the middle of a meeting, it might look, you're not going to go, hang on, I'm just going to do my 5, 5, 5 breathing, but you can internally be doing that. Then the thinking you were talking about again is quite key, and that's all about, that builds on Steve Peters' work, where he talks about calming your chimp. And he said there are two things. Your chimp, Steve Peters says, is your emotional center. That's how he describes your amygdala. And he says the chimp needs a couple of key things when the chimp is agitated. It needs, first of all, you've got to acknowledge the emotion that you're feeling. So internally, you're saying, I'm really angry with this person. You don't say out loud, but internally you're saying, yeah, it's anger. This is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling anger. And so your chimp, your amygdala is going, oh, good, you're recognizing, you're taking this seriously. And then reminding yourself of what is okay or a time that's okay. So you talked about reminding yourself of who you are. Reminding, I can manage this. This is not who, in your case, that someone's describing you. That's not me. And you're then telling yourself, hang on, this is not so much about me. This is about the other person. Have I dealt with difficult people and difficult conversations before? Yes, I have. And so you're just reminding yourself, actually, this isn't as big a threat as it might be seen, because I am still managing and controlling myself. So Yeah, you've given one example there. Are there any other examples of where you have had anxiety-inducing kind of moments, emotional moments, and what was it then that you needed to acknowledge, or even in that event again, what emotion did you need to acknowledge?
I think another thing that professionally I found difficult is where you've had meetings with people, not either individually or as a group, and they've been quite, contentious or difficult, and people have responded in a certain way that has maybe, from your point of view, made things difficult. And you have to have another meeting with them. Before you've even set foot in the room, you've already got that feeling from before.
Yeah.
And I've been in some meetings where it has felt a bit like I am putting on my armour and getting ready to go in and do battle, which is not a helpful mindset, because it's kind of ratcheting it up before you've even started. So that can be really, really hard. And I think under those circumstances, it's about remembering and keeping sort of front and foremost, what's the purpose of this meeting? What are we setting out to achieve? Why are we having the meeting in the first place? What is my role in this? And trying to focus on that. And if people get a bit snippy and you get snidey comments, then I think you have a choice. You either ignore it or you call it out, and you need to know the group you're with to know what's going to be the best tactic on that, because some people are looking for you to call it out, because then they'll come in with something else, whereas if you just let it go.
So you're talking there about a real clarity on your purpose, or the purpose of the conversation gives you the energy then in that context. Do you find yourself in those contexts though having to acknowledge the emotion you're feeling, or do you just swallow it?
I think with experience, you do learn to just swallow it. When you're maybe less experienced or new to it, it can be really hard to do that. But it's almost like knowing which battles to fight and what to get caught up in. And I think as well, trying to remember that the behaviour you are experiencing from another person and how you are perceiving it may not be how they intend it. It may be completely unwitting on their part, but they are making you feel like you want to give them a good metaphorical slap. And that sometimes, all they're doing is like fighting their corner, the same as you'd want to be fighting your corner, and it's just how it's coming across. So it's about not taking it personally. And that's something I find really, really hard.
Yeah. I guess what helps an element of that is just reminding it a bit of what you've just talked about there. What emotion am I seeing from them? What might sit behind that? And is that actually all about me, or is it some stuff that's going on for them? And then being able to be aware in yourself enough to know, this is the emotion I'm feeling as a result of their behaviour towards me. And again, that awareness to just know what button's being pressed in you. To be able to go, I am feeling angry because I am feeling a bit patronised by them. So that's one for me. If I feel someone's patronising me, trying to put me down, the normally mild-mannered Colin becomes this ferocious beast inside. And so it's just recognising, they're just pressing the patronising button. You can't let them win that by allowing that button to be fully pressed. It's just recognising, I see what you're doing. And I can now, because I've acknowledged that emotion of feeling patronised, now I'm aware of what's going on in myself. Now I can seek what's going to be my best reaction here. So this is the blue inhaler bit, isn't it? That actually, what do I need to do? Like you've just said, do I need to go and press pause on the meeting? Do I need to now just go and do some breathing exercises, standing up in the loo? Do I need to stand as Wonder Woman for 2 minutes and hands on hips to allow that just to flow out of me, and power pose? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I just need some peace and quiet? Do I need to go outside to just look at the countryside? What is it? What's my blue inhaler in this moment? So now I realise what's happening to me to respond to it, so that I remain in control, so that I don't. I remember a classic example where it was actually with a previous vet that we had. They'd phoned up and had to go at my wife that the bill hadn't been paid. We hadn't even received the bill. And I was really cross about this. So I decided I was going to ring them up. Well, of course, that was a really silly thing to do because inside I was feeling a little bit cross anyway. And then the vet happened to press the patronising button. And then I didn't control myself. I didn't manage me. And I then got very cross with them. And then I lost actually the moral high ground because of my behaviour. And so when you lose control in that moment, and of course, I then realised what I'd done, and then I had to apologise. So he's now definitely on the upper foot because I'm apologising to him when it should have been him apologising to me for being rude to my wife when actually we hadn't even received the bill. So yeah, it's about being able to recognise those emotions in yourself and then take time to do it, which I think leads us nicely onto the last bit of our kind of session today, just around responding, not reacting. So again, when I work with a number of clients about how do we manage emotions, there's these 3 key words that I think really help people, which is to pause, reflect, and respond. Just in that moment, instead of reacting, is to just pause and reflect what is needed in this moment and who do I want to be in this moment. If we were to replay the video later on, will I be proud in how I'm then presenting myself? So what is needed for me and for them? And who do I want to be? And then in that moment to then say to yourself, right, I intend now then to do this. And that's building on the work from David Marquardt in Turn the Ship Around, where he realised if we either say to somebody else or say to ourselves, I intend to, it gives us that thinking moment to then respond rather than reacting and therefore missing some things that we should have done. So pause, and in that pause, reflect on who do I want to be and what's needed in this moment, and then respond in that way. That's much better than reacting. So what do you think about that, Anna? How have you found the power of pausing? Does that help?
It does, and I think that can be quite hard to learn because I think quite often people, and I would count myself amongst this, are a bit uncomfortable with silence. So if there's been a lot going on and somebody else stops, then my reaction would be to jump in with something. But if you're trying to build in that pause to get right, what's going to be the best response. And I've learned that sometimes it's okay to just sort of give a little thoughtful, okay, I am considering what you said. And that gives you that little bit of space that stops you going, I've seen the real power of pause. I learnt it first from the first deputy head I worked under, a guy called Jerry Day. And I saw it initially with kids. Kids would get sent to him for poor behaviour, or he'd called for them to come and see them. And they would come to him and he would then just pause and wait. And in that pause, they felt so uncomfortable. They then filled the space and started confessing all their sins. And I always remember he had these half moon glasses, and he would look over these half moon glasses after this child had just poured out all their sins, and he would just go, that wasn't why I asked to see you, but we'll come to that in a moment. And you can see these kids' faces go, why have I done this? And I think we can do the same. And I have sometimes have just said, I'm just thinking on that. And so they know what's going on. Or sometimes I would just wait and think. And actually, just like you said, people feel uncomfortable in the pause and then they try and fill it. And in some ways you disarm them because they're just thinking what's going on in their head. They don't know.
So actually that moment of pause, that moment of quietness can be helpful to you. A, to your thinking, but also it puts you on the front foot and them on the back foot. And so then the reflecting bit, I've just said about reflecting about who do I want to be and what's needed in this moment for this person and for me. What about that reflection for you?
I think that's where you have to remind yourself sometimes that we might all be adults in the room, but clearly some people at the moment are not functioning in that way, and it's down to me to maintain that. I need to be the adult here, and therefore it's not about scoring points or you might have a really good comeback, but is that going to help the situation? No, let's be the adult, let's rise above it,
Yeah,
and
because
find
that I intend to bit, if I
Yeah.
go, I intend to come back with a really good comeback here, then you would go, I might feel
maybe not
briefly on top,
yeah.
but it'll just spark the flames
Like,
up again.
yeah, and it is just that. Let's rise above it. We might have to let some things go,
Yeah.
and then think about, how are we going to move this forward?
Yeah.
Because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what you want. If you've gone into your meeting with a clear purpose, if you haven't got a clear purpose while you're having a meeting, then you want to achieve that. And sometimes it is that, okay, let's rise above, and what can I now do that's going to get us back on track to moving forward?
Yeah. So that pausing and reflecting, as you were talking there, it's reminded me, as leaders, we need that sense of gravitas, that sense that your behavior is almost like water off a duck's back to me. I am above this behavior because I am maintaining the person that I want to be. I'm maintaining that gravitas, that sense of calm, that sense of composure. And that pause and reflection allows us to project that gravitas, doesn't it, in that process? Yeah. Okay, so the last bit as well that I again have tried to support clients with is noting the body feelings you have, but also thinking about what body feelings you'd like to have, and then thinking about what actions, if I was to take them, would bring the body feelings I would want to have inside of me. So an example, I am feeling agitated, I'm feeling annoyed, my heart is racing, my breathing is shortening. Those are the feelings I have and the emotions I have at the moment. But I'm in this situation, I don't want to have those. I want to have a steady heart rate. I want to have calm breathing. I want to feel composed, and I want to have a calm authority. Those are the emotions I want to have. So then you say to yourself, well, if I want to feel a calm authority, what actions do I need to take that will then generate that in me? So it's projecting, thinking, what do I need to do in order to have that feeling in myself? And so, for example, if I want to feel calm and authoritative, what actions do I need to take to feel that? I might need to go, what I'm going to do is take a slow breath. I'm actually going to just tilt my head slightly because it just makes me feel like I'm being reflective. I'm actually going to just put my glasses to my lip as if I'm thinking, and I'm going to take some time. In that time, I'm just going to say, I can do this. I've done this sort of thing before. And I'm going to think about what is the one thing this person needs. And then I'm going to speak with a really slow, calm, authoritative voice. So I think about, in my reflection moment, that's what I'm going to do. And then when I start to act that out, it will then generate within me a sense of calm authority because I am behaving as a calm authority. My body almost then tells my mind, look, my glass top is touching my lip. I have my head tipped slightly to the side. So all my body is sending the signal back of I'm in calm, authoritative mode. And then the brain goes, oh, right, then if that's the mode we're in, then, okay, feelings, let's go calm, authoritative here. And so it's working that kind of backwards.
And I think that can work and help other people as well, because when you do that and are projecting this calm, authoritative, that actually sometimes is what they need to kind of help bring them down, that you're not coming back at them and screaming and shouting. You are being that calm, authoritative leader, and it's the messaging to them is like, it's okay because I'm here and I am, I've got this, and I'm going to move this forward for us. And you can sometimes, when you behave like that yourself, you can see other people kind of go, okay, they don't have to be on that, DEFCON 1 ready to come back at you with something because you're not responding like that.
And that brings us beautifully, Anna, right back to the bit you mentioned at the beginning, that when we are the best version of ourselves, it enables others to be their best version. So like you've just said, when we then project that calm, it brings that out in them so that their day then doesn't become a day full of, and then my boss was really grumpy and rude to me. It's instead, my boss was calm. My boss actually let me let off steam and didn't put me down. And as a result, I calmed down. So that brought us beautifully back, Hannah. Well done. So here we are then at the end of our time, just thinking about managing me was our podcast topic today. And as you know, we always finish off with top 3 tips. So what are your top 3 tips, Anna, for managing me?
So I think the key one, and we've said it a lot throughout this, is however other people behave, you have to stay in control of yourself. And that can lead to a lot of rising above. You know, I have sat in meetings repeating that to myself like a mantra: rise above it, just rise above it.
I love that little mantra, rise above it.
Yeah, they might be, I'm rising above it, you know, just not reacting. So I think that is key.
Yeah, that links a little bit to one that I hold on to a lot, is what story do you want to write?
Yeah.
In this moment, who do you want to be seen? What story do you want to write? And you're on there, I want to be seen as someone that's rising above it.
Rising above it.
Yeah. What's your next one?
Don't take it personally. Often easier said than done, you know, and hopefully, no matter how grumpy, unpleasant, difficult somebody is being, it's not you as a person they're challenging, it's your role or your stance on something that they don't like. They're not actually going against you, but that it can feel like it. So
and it's often more about them. Their reaction is more about them, their worries, their weakness, their challenge. So you're right in saying, remind yourself, this isn't all about me. This is actually about them.
Well.
Yeah.
And then I think the final one, it's, you know, generally these situations that we've been talking about have been work related. It's a job, not a way of life. So, you know, give yourself a break, build in some downtime, you know, do whatever makes you happy. And that gives you that bit of breathing space and chilling time so that you, it's like, you know, you talked about feeding your soul. It is giving yourself that input so that next time you're in that situation of that challenging meeting, that aggressive, complaining person, you've got something within you to be drawing on because you've taken time to nourish and nurture yourself.
Yeah, that proactive bit, the Pincaler bit is so important, isn't it? Yeah. Those are 3 brilliant top tips, Anna. I think I would just add as well, in any of these moments, just ask yourself, what can I control? What can't I control? Yeah. Because often in these moments, we're worrying about all the stuff that's then going to come out of this, but just saying, in this moment, what can I control? Because you can't control them. You can't control sometimes the whole situation. It is just about your own behaviours and what's the one thing I can do now that I'm in control of that will help move this forward. Good. Anna, thank you ever so much for joining us in the Leadership Lounge again. It's always a pleasure. And thank you to our listeners and our viewers. Thank you for joining us on the Leadership Lounge this month. And we look forward to you joining us again next month in the Leadership Lounge.